My girlfriend came home during my therapy session through telehealth. She heard me talking about her and chose to listen for about 30 minutes before I realized she was home. She stormed out and was extremely angry at me. I had been talking about our relationship and, in the heat of emotions, jumped to hurtful conclusions about how people around me feel about her, which I mistakenly expressed as dislike. I had also been talking about our relationship stresses, getting everything out and just talking through it. She says she feels betrayed and like she was stabbed in the back over this. I feel awful and haven't been able to interpret my feelings on this appropriately either. Responding with anger. How do I proceed? What should I do? Sorry for the small details. This is for privacy's sake. I want to add that other than what has been stated here, I did not say anything directly mean about her. I only talked about issues we've had and how those around me might view her. She heard only me talking, not my therapist. She is upset that I would share any information about our relationship or what she's been struggling with, including with my therapist. Thank you all for your support. Although I'm not replying to every comment, I am reading them and taking everything into account. I am also at work in emergency medical services, so I apologize if I don't get to your comment. Thank you all for your replies. I'm sorry I haven't been able to respond to everyone. You've all been a big help, and I will reflect on everything everyone has said when looking at this relationship. Thank you. Story 1. You did not do anything wrong. She was the one who violated your privacy by listening to your session. As far as I am concerned, it is not your responsibility to take any action. She should be apologizing to you. Story 2. She spied on your private therapy session, and she is mad? You should be the mad one. That is a violation of your privacy. Talking about her to a therapist is better than talking to friends or family. Story 3. I feel betrayed that you were talking about your grievances to your therapist. Run. Anyone who expects you to work through your emotions like you cut down a tree is toxic and does not understand how relationships should work. You do not make cuts with full knowledge of the direction everything will go or with an eye on the entire project. Instead, you work in a direction and make various adjustments based on how things develop, with few ideas about the final destination. In other words, therapy is like bushwhacking, and she is expecting you to have a map. Story 4. Darvo. Deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. She walked in and snooped on you working with your therapist through your raw emotions, misconstrued what she overheard, and now blames you, saying you betrayed her instead of the other way around. Sounds like you need to move on. Your family doesn't like her. You work with your therapist to deal with it, and she fuels the conflict instead of being your partner. Tell her the truth. She is the one who has betrayed you, and you deserve an apology for her weaponizing your therapy against you. If she can't see that, ask yourself why you would be with someone who is trying to sabotage your mental health care. Story 5. I tend to think that this is pretty much over because there is no way around the fact that you both feel very betrayed. You feel betrayed because she chose to continue listening in on a conversation she clearly knew was private. She feels betrayed because, rightly or wrongly, she now knows how you feel about her. Unless you both feel that this relationship is worth saving and are willing to work on repairing the damage done on each side, this is pretty much over in my opinion. Story 6. First, discuss this with your therapist. Get their opinion on the situation since it sounds like you are using them as a touchstone for your relationship and this is impacting it. Second, ask your girlfriend to talk to you. See if she is willing to discuss what you said, perhaps provide some context for what you were expressing or feeling. Beyond that, there is not much any stranger on the internet can tell you. Story 7. Fine, let her stay out. She literally broke the trust in your relationship and on top of that, made your vulnerable moments about her. Story 8. Listening in on someone else's therapy session is an extreme violation of trust. You do not owe her an apology. It sounds like there are some fundamental issues in your relationship that you both need to work out. Story 9. Oh man, this is not about her. It was your therapy and she decided to listen, which was her choice. It is unfortunate that therapy happened at your house, but it was your private and vulnerable time with your therapist, and she has no right to judge what you discussed. The fact that she is just mad only proves that she is thinking about her own feelings. Story 10. I have a question for you now that many people have responded to your question and I have read some of your replies. I ask from a good place, not an attacking one. Why do you feel like the people around you might not like her or view her poorly? If we could interview them, what would they say they have seen from her that would make them feel worried about you as you have described? Story 11. Brother, I'll say this from personal experience with a woman who did something nearly identical to what your girlfriend did and also reacted very poorly and took everything personally. You need to get it through to her that she made a major mistake and that she needs to take real accountability. If she can't do that, then she is proving that she doesn't actually care about you, your feelings, fears, mental health, privacy, or the relationship. The relationship is completely broken and waiting to deteriorate further before one of you ends up ending it, which is where it belongs unless you decide you are okay with intrusion and disrespect and want to live to serve only her needs. My advice is to have a serious conversation, maybe even with a mediator present. If you can't get her to change her betrayal and abusive behavior, then you need to figure out who holds the lease on your place because one of you has to move out. Story 12. Just because she is upset does not mean you did anything wrong. I am sorry your privacy was violated. I think it is wrong for her to have listened to arguably one of the most private conversations you can have and not show you that respect for space. She can be upset about the conversation, and I would imagine the feelings of betrayal come from feeling blindsided by the details. Perhaps you should have an honest conversation about how you are actually feeling. You can invite her to join a future therapy session and tell her there, so she understands what you are working on if you feel comfortable. Story 13. Does she even know what therapy is for? It is to vent. It is a super healthy way to process feelings and release emotions. Of course, you are not talking about how everything is perfect in your life. What did she expect? She betrayed you. It is like she had temporary access to your inner thoughts that you would not normally share. She has no right to be mad. This is hypocrisy. Everyone has secret thoughts and feelings. Therapists exist for a reason, to have someone to confide in when these thoughts cannot be shared with friends or family. Story 14. She should not be listening to your conversation with your therapist. That is an outrage in my opinion. Therapy is extremely private, and women would not approve of anyone doing that to them during their therapy session. She is being extremely narcissistic and selfish. She should have stepped back and not listened at all. I am really sorry that happened, my friend. We already have trouble discussing our feelings with others and with our own partners because of what your girlfriend did. I would have been furious. She does not have to know everything you feel and know, especially now when she cannot be trusted to respect your therapy. That is unfortunate. I am sorry. Story 15. Therapy is private. No one should listen in unless you give permission. You should not ask someone what they talk about in therapy unless it is a very general inquiry. If you want to share, that is fine, but therapy is supposed to be a safe place where you can say whatever you want. Listening in on your partner's therapy without permission is a serious violation. Story 16. Sounds like an excellent opportunity to end a relationship with a toxic, controlling, manipulative, narcissistic woman. Story 17. You should take time to process this before you act. She says she feels betrayed, but she caused the problem herself. You don't snoop on someone's therapy session. She has truly betrayed your trust. She betrayed your trust in a conversation she didn't have context for and knew she shouldn't listen to. To make matters worse, she is blaming you for trying to understand and process your own feelings with your therapist. If she doesn't see how she is in the wrong here, even if she is hurt, she may be a lost cause. Her focus is only on herself. If she acknowledges what she did was wrong, the only actual wrong thing here, then there might be something to salvage. Otherwise, she has shown you who she is, and it is not positive. Story 18. How do you proceed? You tell her that you were in a therapy session, and she had no right to eavesdrop. You tell her that she needs to leave and never contact you again. Story 19. She is essentially projecting. All of the things she is accusing you of are things she did by spying on your medical appointment. End the relationship as soon as possible, or someday you will regret every additional day you spend with her from this point on. I am sorry to hear this is happening to you. Story 20. I read your Reddit post. You're 22 or 23 years old. Leave. It's not worth it. I promise you, therapy is so vital, and the fact that she knew what was happening, lingered, and then reacted with rage is a massive red flag. I would beg my son to leave if he told me something like this happened to him. No amount of sex or comfort will ever negate the damage she's done and the privacy she stripped from you. Just because you were at home doesn't mean you don't deserve privacy. Imagine if she pressed her ear to the door of your therapist's office, because that's essentially what happened. You're so young. You can start over. She doesn't love you if she doesn't respect your simplest boundaries. Story 21. She has a right to feel upset if the things she heard are upsetting to her. She does not, however, have a right to blame you for saying it when you were in what was supposed to be a private conversation with your therapist. Those words were not for her ears, and she is the one who betrayed your trust by listening without permission. It is understandable for her to be upset if she does not like what was said, but you did not say it to her. You need a safe space to work through these things, and she violated that and made it about herself. Story 22. She was wrong for eavesdropping on you. You are allowed to express yourself honestly and truthfully to a therapist. It will not help you otherwise. She broke your trust by doing what she did. Tell her she was wrong and that she must apologize to you. If she does not, then you should break up with her. Story 23. That is awful. None of it is your fault. Your girlfriend is completely at fault for listening in. How violating. I am so sorry, original poster. Story 24. No. That's a hard line. She eavesdropped on your therapy session. Even during coronavirus disease, I would put noise-canceling headphones on and sit in the other room when my ex had therapy. Story 25. Oh my gosh. This is awful. You did not do anything wrong at all. Let me just say, I am an anxious person. My husband and I had a lot of things to work through early in our marriage. One thing I needed to work on was my trust and control issues. We went to marriage counseling, and at one point our therapist wanted to speak to us separately via telehealth. I remember when my husband was talking to him, I wanted to listen in so badly, but despite all the snooping I have done, it was a line I could not cross and live with. It is the ultimate invasion of privacy. She needs someone to tell her that, and she needs to get over it. As if she has never said anything about her relationships, past or present, to anyone in confidence before. Probably not even to a professional. She needs to ask herself how she would feel if her partner had listened in on a private conversation she was having with someone and got mad at her for what she said privately. She would likely feel betrayed and would not care about why the other person was upset because she would be so upset about the invasion of privacy. I hope she apologizes. Sorry that happened to you. Story 26. She invaded your privacy. You may be confused because you are thinking about her and her feelings instead of taking care of yourself. She should have respected your privacy. I am concerned that you might not feel safe during your appointments anymore. Healing cannot happen if you do not feel safe. This was her fault. Story 27. There is not much to unpack here. My wife is similar, and I should have listened to my friends and family when I was younger. Now, after 23 years of marriage, I realize I had a lot of resentment built up. So now that I have expressed my concerns and set boundaries, she does not know how to deal with it, and it has only hindered her emotional maturity further. We are still making it work because, while I have been seeing my own therapist for 3 years, she has only attended marriage counseling with me for 1 year. But in that year, she has learned a lot about herself. Older married men who say it was rough, but I would do it all over again are just lying to themselves. If I could go back to my 17-year-old self, I would have many things to say, and many of them would sound like what my friends and family told me at the time. To be clear, I am not saying anything here that I have not said in counseling. I might think differently in a few years, but these are my thoughts as of now. Story 28. This feels like her getting upset about what you wrote in your journal after she snooped. It is specifically for you to process your thoughts, and she betrayed your trust. If she did not realize it was therapy and heard a part of it, she should have come to talk to you or been there long enough to understand it is therapy and left as soon as possible. Story 29. She feels betrayed. She literally violated your personal space while confiding with a mental health specialist. Story 30. Honestly, this is breakup territory. She spied on you and would have kept going if you had not found out. And she is angry at you? Psychotic. Story 31. I started therapy during COVID, and my boyfriend at the time would leave the house and go for walks during my therapy hour. Now he is my husband and he is in therapy. I treat him with the same respect. When I see therapy on his calendar, I leave for that hour, go on walks, get my nails done, go to a bookstore, and read for an hour. It's just common decency and respect. One time, we were driving to get our marriage license and he had forgotten about therapy. I asked him to log in and tell his therapist I was preparing to pull over. I pulled over in a small town, left him in the car to have his session, and I walked around. I tried a local coffee shop where I struck up a conversation with a local that lasted almost the entire session. I don't need to hear what goes on during that hour. It is his private time to express his thoughts. She was wrong and should acknowledge that she was in the wrong, not you. Story 32. My young adult daughter does teletherapy. She warns me the night before. I put on headphones and loud music so I do not overhear during her appointments. She is locked in her room, but I would feel horrible if I overheard anything. It is what you do when you love and respect someone. Story 33. Are you a doormat? It sounds like you are the victim in an abusive relationship. She broke basic rules of trust and privacy and is now turning it back on you to make it seem like you are the problem. Stand up for yourself and tell her what she did is out of bounds and unacceptable. Story 34. I would recommend breaking up. Partners should be able to listen and walk through hard realities together. Her reaction to your honesty is why I would end this relationship. Story 35. Ignore her. Do not justify, argue, defend, or explain. She is a narcissist and that is your issue. Do not get baited by her attempts to gain supply from you. That is why she is mad. She is worried that you will learn and is trying to shame you into doing what most healthy people do. Do not take my word for it. Search YouTube for narcissism. Story 36. Maybe she should not listen to your therapy. You have every right to privacy in speaking to your therapist, and her choice to eavesdrop is a clear violation of that privacy. You should not have to sit there and worry about how you word things to your therapist. Story 37. I read enough to know that no one should be listening to your sessions. She made a serious mistake and should have turned around immediately when she realized you were talking to a therapist. Story 38. Do you know how excited I would be if my partner cared enough to be in therapy? I certainly would not jeopardize that by violating their space and then blaming them for it. Story 39. She needs to mature. Therapy is exactly where those issues are addressed. Sometimes expressing them allows the therapist to help you work through them and become stronger in your relationship. Story 40. Adults know they are independent and have their own private thoughts. Therapy is the best place to discuss all of that. You are mature enough to choose therapy. She is not mature enough to respect that. She is too immature to be in a relationship. Story 41. This is a strong breach of trust on your girlfriend's end. It is completely wrong of her to listen in on your sessions, and it defeats the purpose of your therapy. You need to be honest and unfiltered. No one should be listening to you. I have the same situation with my girlfriend regarding telehealth therapy. She has to go elsewhere to give me full privacy. She will not listen in on me because that session is my thoughts being explored with the therapist without filters. Honestly, I am mad for you. What your girlfriend did is completely unacceptable. Your therapy session should be a sanctuary for your thoughts and emotions to be sorted with a professional. Story 42. You are the one who should be angry, not her. She crossed a major boundary when she decided to listen in on your therapy session. The fact that she would do this is a huge red flag. That is a really selfish, narcissistic thing to do. Crosses many boundaries. Can you imagine how she would react if you did the same? Story 43. Original poster. Do not let what happened change the trust you have in your therapist to speak your mind. You can only get the support you need if you can express your feelings in your own way. If there is any negative thought pattern, that is something the therapist should know about and work with you on. It was an extreme violation to listen in on the session. If I were in your position, I would not bother explaining or arguing. I would want her out of my sight and never see her again. What an embarrassment this woman is. Story 44. You need to leave her. She violated your trust in one of the worst ways possible, and there is no getting it back. You cannot tolerate anyone, listening in on a therapy session. Story 45. I would break up with her. 1. She seriously violated your privacy knowingly. 2. Expecting you not to share any details of your relationship with a therapist means she either knows she is the cause of the issues in the relationship and does not want you to get support that will help you see that, or she has no idea what the point of therapy is. Story 46. I can understand why you need therapy. A rational adult would see you are struggling and try to support you. Story 47. This is one of many reasons men do not go to therapy or speak honestly with their partners. People in 2025 want men to speak up and attend therapy to work out issues. I agree. Please help yourselves, guys, and always talk to someone. However, some people, often women, get upset at the results. As a society, especially the women in our lives, we need to do a better job of not reacting angrily or shutting down when someone is speaking honestly and openly about issues, especially if we expect them and others to continue opening up. I am sorry this happened to you, original poster. You did nothing wrong. She should not have listened to your private session. Best of luck. Story 48. If this is true, you are the one who should be upset. The fact that she would betray your trust and listen in on therapy sessions is unforgivable. Seriously, I am not exaggerating. You need to ask her to leave or you need to move out. Anyone who would do this does not care about you. It is obvious they are more interested in how they fit into your world. For your information, my significant other has weekly sessions, and I leave the house to avoid making them uncomfortable. Story 49. She is upset that I would share any information about our relationship or what she has been struggling with, even with my therapist. This is very controlling. Leave now or regret it later. Story 50. You had a therapy session. She invaded your privacy and got angry because you tried to work out things for yourself in a confidential space that she invaded. You are not going to fix anything about this. She has to. If she expects you to fix her emotions after she violated your right to privacy, then you are in an abusive relationship. Story 51. Step 1. Tell your therapist. Step 2. Ask your therapist if you can do a joint session with your girlfriend. Step 3. Ask your girlfriend if she is willing to join a joint therapy session to address this issue. If your girlfriend is not willing to attend a therapy session, that speaks volumes about how she views the relationship. Story 52. Are you kidding me? She completely and utterly betrayed your trust. The whole point of therapy is that it is a safe place where you can process and speak freely to your therapist about anything and anybody in your life. Honestly, that is such an incredible violation of privacy that not only should she not be mad at you, but you should be straight up ending the relationship. That is very upsetting. Although I should say that my wife is a therapist, so I may be a little biased. Story 53. It was a betrayal of trust for her to listen in on the therapy session for 30 minutes. She should have left as soon as she realized what you were doing. She needs to apologize for that. Is she really upset with you sharing things with the therapist? Or is she actually upset with you sharing things about your relationship with your family and friends, who would only be getting your side of the story? She might have taken what you meant as you have been criticizing her to your family and friends. She is upset that I would share what she has been struggling with anyone. It sounds as if she does not like to be talked about. She might be upset because she took it as if you have been gossiping about her. It is really not good if you have been talking about her problems to your family and friends unless they are relationship-related issues that you are directly involved in. Story 54. This has happened to me too. I recommend getting in your car. Significant others take everything personally. Story 55. She is upset that she spied on you and heard things you told your therapist about her and the way she makes you and others feel. That is some next-level manipulation going on. You should be the one to receive the apology. Story 56. But that is exactly what you do. You tell your therapist about the issues and relationships in your life from your point of view. It is always difficult to hear such things, but she made the deliberate choice to listen. I am sorry this happened to you. It is a major breach of trust on your girlfriend's part. Story 57. Our privacy is largely there to protect third parties. People who violate it bring upon themselves everything they learn. She did it to herself. If she believes she has the right to feel betrayed and backstabbed afterward, well, sometimes the best thing people's issues can do is help them leave our lives. Story 58. Hey friend. I think it is important to acknowledge your good decision to seek therapy for what is going on in your life and for everything on your mind. You should never feel wrong or guilty for seeking help, and I absolutely commend you. I hope you have a good therapist you can continue to speak to. As for your girlfriend, she is feeling insecure and invalidated because she chose to listen to your entire conversation. That is on her, and with maturity and time, she will understand that what she did was wrong. I wish you the best in your life. Tough times will pass. Stay positive. Story 59. Therapy is a private conversation between a medical practitioner and a patient. She was snooping, knew that she was snooping, and should apologize. It is like making glue from horse hooves and all. Can be unpleasant, but the end result is something valuable and useful. The fact that she saw how the sausage is made is not your fault, and you should not feel obligated to apologize for anything. Story 60. End the relationship. That is a significant invasion of privacy. It also indicates her lack of respect for you. Story 61. Red flag right there. Just ask your therapist and you will see. Why would she get mad at you for intruding on your privacy, then get mad at what she heard, which was not even bad? Red flag. Story 62. This is an incredible violation of your privacy. She may have a legitimate reason to be upset at what you have said, but the overriding problem is her violating you. If she cannot see that, I would tell her to leave. Story 63. My friend told me she liked to listen in on her wife's telehealth therapy sessions, and it really weirded me out. We are not friends anymore. Story 64. What she did was such an extreme violation that I would not be able to come back from it. I found out once that an ex had read my diary, and I broke up with him immediately. There is nothing you could have said that would justify her violating your privacy like that. I am so sorry this happened to you. Story 65. You weren't wrong for expressing your feelings during a therapy session. Now she knows how you feel. Emotion clouds a lot of judgment, but imagine you weren't going through this and just read what you wrote. You can feel mad, sad, confused, all those emotions, but guilt? Absolutely not. Protecting that peace is invaluable. Who eavesdrops on therapy? I'd say, I'm over here working through my issues and our relationship. What are you working on? This is how I felt in a private moment, and if that angers you, go experience some private moments. Story 66. Listening in on your therapy session is really low. That's like reading your diary. She has no right to be mad at you about your feelings. That said, if you are sharing personal information about her with your therapist without her consent, then she does have a right to be angry, but she still should not be listening. Story 67. How you proceed is you break up with her. A partner sneaking around to spy on your private therapy session is next level crazy and monstrous. Them telling you that you must not discuss them in therapy is next level controlling. Doing heinous things like this and spinning it so it's now your job to make her feel less angry about how she has been wronged is next level manipulative. There is no having a healthy relationship with someone who acts like she does. Sorry. Story 68. Your girlfriend cannot eavesdrop on a private therapy session and then claim she is the victim. The fact that she put two and two together and realized it was a therapy session, but then decided to continue eavesdropping, is an enormous breach of trust. I imagine if the roles were reversed and you were eavesdropping on her private therapy session, she would be furious. Story 69. You trying to better yourself and thereby your relationship with her is not a reason for her to get mad. She should be grateful to have a partner who is working on themselves. I can't imagine what my spouse says to their therapist about me. Bless that poor person for keeping my spouse sane. Story 70. I can see why you are in therapy talking about her. I do not know, so I cannot speak on the whole relationship, but this is a red flag. Story 71. I think that if this were a court of law, anything you said to a therapist would not be admissible in court. Story 72. You tell her she heard things out of context. Now that she heard them, you can provide the context, but they might still be uncomfortable to hear. That is why that session was meant to be private. If your therapist does couples therapy, you can offer a session to clear things up. Story 73. This is the main reason I will not do telehealth therapy. I would never feel truly free to talk because of this. Story 74. Respond firmly as a woman. Accuse her of invading your privacy, not trusting you, and any other unreasonable claims you can imagine all at once. Story 75. That is messed up. Therapy should be a private space to work out your emotions and determine if they are valid or misplaced. Listening in is completely inappropriate in my opinion. If it were me, I would try to talk it out, but if she refused to listen or try to understand, I would break up. Expecting anyone to deal with emotions in isolation by themselves is just terrible. Story 76. Listening in on a therapy session for 30 minutes would be an absolute deal breaker for me. For what it is worth, I often do telehealth sessions from the car for this reason. Story 77. The sad thing is you are doing the right thing by improving yourself through therapy, and she violated your privacy. Once she knew what was happening, she should have told you she was there and then left. Story 78. I don't know how you come back from this. How can you ever trust her again? I would be livid, yet you are allowing her to play the victim here. You did nothing wrong. There is an old saying, eavesdroppers rarely hear good things about themselves. You have every right to vent to your therapist about anyone and anything you want. You also have a right to privacy when you do it. She is in the wrong here, and I would end the relationship and tell her she is being nosy. Story 79. My ex-wife did this and ended up divorcing me over what she overheard. I wasn't even talking about anything inappropriate, just doing an exercise with my therapist that involved her. Yes, but it was literally a talking exercise. I hate to say this, but if you are not married, this would be a deal breaker. If you get married and involve the authorities in the breakup and this is how she reacts to you improving yourself, then man, I am not a relationship pessimist. I usually lean toward working through it. But in your case, dude, you should leave. That one Wednesday in December online session ended up costing me $45,000. So that's unfortunate. Story 80. I feel like this is one of those situations where you have to break up. She went through your diary in real time and then got mad at you because she did not like what she found. Listening in on someone's therapy session without their knowledge is such a violation of trust that I do not know how you move on from it. Story 81. How are you allowing her disgraceful actions to be perceived as if you are in the wrong? End the relationship and you will likely find you do not need the therapist after a few weeks. Story 82. Maybe the people around you are feeling that way for a reason, and you have just been blind to it. We have all been there, but now you are seeing it. Story 83. I also take therapy online and I know it carries some risks. If I accidentally heard my boyfriend talking to his therapist, first I would give him his space, but if I heard him talk about our relationship, I think I would feel very sad. I might ask about it, but from a worried and concerned place about our relationship, not angry or feeling betrayed. It is therapy. I actually know my boyfriend talked about our relationship with his therapist at the beginning, and I think it improved our communication a lot. He also knows I have talked about us with my therapist, and no one has taken it as something bad. I don't know, she sounds like the people who use take therapy as an insult. Story 84. It would be over for me. That's a steeper hill than I would want to climb. I cannot see myself being violated like that and ever wanting to put any effort into the relationship. Broken things cannot always be fixed. Story 85. The cat is now out of the bag, and you need to talk about it with her. If it damages the relationship beyond repair, then such are the consequences. Going forward, make certain you are in a more private location to have these kinds of conversations. Story 86. For therapy to work, it needs to be a safe space where you can talk about anything. She violated that and your privacy by listening in. She obviously knew she should not be listening because she kept herself hidden and did not let you know she was home. This is a massive breach of trust. Story 87. Firstly, you have a right to be angry. What she did was wrong. Secondly, you have every right to speak about anything and everything that bothers you in your therapy. She has no right to be mad. She broke your trust by listening. She showed no respect for your boundaries when she chose to do that. However, shouting and fighting will get you nowhere. You need to decide what you need to move forward. Apologies, a conversation, both parties listening. Ask her what she needs to move forward. Can you give her that? Is it reasonable? If not, why? You can ask your therapist if she can join you for a session to discuss this. Perhaps that would help keep things civil. Story 88. If I had to give a suggestion, do not apologize. That is reserved for times when you know you did something wrong. She violated your medical session, so she is in the wrong. She probably will not apologize based on her reaction, but you should still reach out to connect. It is okay to explain what therapy is and how it has been helping you, including being human and sharing concerns. These are meant to be private conversations that are protected by the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. Therapy is a tool that helps you navigate difficulties in life. If she has a problem with that, you will need to remind her it is not about her in this context. If she still has a problem with that, unfortunately, this will not be resolved, and you will have to decide how to proceed. Story 89. Sorry, but she broke your trust by intentionally listening in on a private therapy session she was not invited to. She had a choice to make. Let you know she was home and allow you privacy, or sneak and violate your privacy. She chose to be sneaky. If it were me, I would expect an apology immediately or ask her to leave until she does. If she cannot acknowledge that she is in the wrong and does not have the appropriate context to judge your private conversation with your therapist, then she is not deserving of your respect. Story 90. I'd say get her a therapist, sincerely. Above all else, ignoring the breach of confidentiality. Just the fact that she listened in is troublesome. I do get it. Hearing your name and stuff, curiosity and whatnot. Perhaps I'd do the same. There are no angels here, right? We're all flawed now and then. But therapy is supposed to be a free zone. You're letting that out, and your therapist is there to help you understand it, maybe dial some of it back a bit. Set your perspective on things to a point where it is optimal for all, for want of a better explanation. And you are in emergency services? Wow, y'all are heroes and deal with things that would just break most of us, day in and day out. You need that release, and you need to do that comfortably. Otherwise, people can and will literally die. As the partner of someone in your line of work, one would assume there is an understanding that sometimes, no matter what her immediate reaction may be, she needs to shut that down and back off. End of discussion. You're venting. That is what therapy is for. As someone who puts their own mental health on the line almost every night lately, street worker, you should go soft and gentle, ease her into the idea, like the time y'all tried something new perhaps. Make her okay with it, plant that seed in her mind and let it flourish. Best case scenario. She realizes that she has some things to express herself, and it was her idea all along. I'm going for a lighthearted tone here. It makes it more pleasant to read and helps me forget the immediate flash of white-hot rage when I read your post before cooler heads prevailed. But yeah, you could even offer to accompany her on the first session, or at least the beginning of it, just to break the ice and be sure she feels safe. Then leave before it turns into a couples therapy session that y'all likely don't need. At the end of the day, this is likely just a mild bump in the road and perhaps a bit of projection, because she has put herself in your shoes and is imagining how she would feel if the situation were reversed. I'm very confident in this part. She definitely has some things to say herself, because when we are with people who give their all to others trying to save the world, the idea that they play second fiddle to our Superman complex is pretty common. Make her feel like Lois Lane instead of a prying person. Again, I kid. I'm sure she's great. Story 91. Roles reversed here. I do therapy sometimes weekly online and from home. My partner is the world's most supportive with it. Never once has he pressured me to open up about what was discussed. The most he will do is ask, "How is therapy?" And it's up to me to disclose anything if I want to. If I say, "I don't want to talk about this one," he gives me a hug and moves on like nothing has happened. Your partner violated your privacy massively. Story 92. Therapy is for you. She is probably hurt because she feels like you are not telling her what is wrong or agreeing with what you said deep down. But that is for her to express, not you. What you said was not for her ears. She knew that and chose to listen. She disrespected you and your time for yourself. I think that is the bigger issue here. Story 93. It is a special violation on her part because she is your therapist, but honestly, if you eavesdrop on someone in many situations and hear something you do not like, then tough luck. You should not eavesdrop. Story 94. My partner has therapy from home. I intentionally play video games with my headset on loud so I do not hear anything. It is about respect and trusting that she will share with me whenever she is ready. Story 95. She did not overhear your therapy session. That would mean she walked in and immediately heard you say a few things before you realized she was there. No, instead, she spied on you and invaded your privacy for 30 minutes. The whole point of therapy is to work through raw emotions and feelings in private. Sometimes you do not fully understand your feelings. Sometimes they are not justified or do not fit the facts of the situation. These are the kinds of feelings you should not always share raw with even your partner because it is a lot to handle. I do not know why she is upset that you are working through feelings with your therapist. That is what therapy is for. It does not work if you are not honest. Anyway, I would let her cool down and probably ask your therapist how to proceed since they know the context better. Story 96. In my opinion, your therapy session is a place for you to talk about anything going on in your life. This is a private matter unless someone has been invited to participate. Eavesdropping is a huge violation of your privacy. Story 97. Oh my God. She was never supposed to listen to your therapy session. That is unbelievable. First, she sneaks and chooses to listen to something she should not hear, and then she blames you for what she heard. What the heck? Story 98. I once walked by a room where my partner was having therapy and heard them say something like, "That's what I said." I started humming until I could get away so I wouldn't hear more. Then I told them what happened after their session ended because I felt uncomfortable for overhearing something private, even though it contained no private information. This is a normal reaction to overhearing a therapy session. Story 99. You should be angry, not her. She should not have been listening. It is horrible to do that. Yes, you should talk to your therapist about things that bother you. Story 100. She has no boundaries. What she did by listening in is really wrong. Either she knows it and is trying to flip the table, or she doesn't and is entirely self-centered. Either way, you need to explain to her that what she did is wrong, and consider wisely the consequences of her attitude in your future. Story 101. Her anger is probably mostly driven by shame. She may feel hurt that she did not choose to say such an important thing to her partner. She may also feel ashamed of not being aware of how she is perceived by those around her. Feeling judged makes a person vulnerable, and some people then lash out. Story 102. Stay calm and wait for her to come to you. Tell her you are disappointed that she listened to a conversation you were having with someone trying to help you. Then let her speak and listen without interrupting her. After that, share your thoughts. If she does not let you speak, then that is a bigger problem. Story 103. Honestly, if this happened to me, I would tell her to screw her head on right and realize that she heavily invaded your privacy. If she did that shot again, I would leave her. Story 104. This is why therapists need to do face-to-face sessions. I had a therapist that I just dismissed because she asked me if it was okay to talk to me on the bus. Story 105. I am responding a bit late, but here is how I see it. Did she violate confidentiality and expectations? Absolutely. Is she human? Yes. What would you have done? I would have done the same. This is an opportunity to be honest with her and discuss the problem and her lack of boundaries. Set expectations for future sessions. If she breaks them, it is probably best to move on. Story 106. So she eavesdropped on your therapy session and still had to make it about herself. She was so consumed by her own anger that she did not even feel shame about eavesdropping. She might not be the one, brother. Story 107. That was such a red flag, and to say she doesn't trust you anymore is nonsense. She knows full well she is in the wrong and is now turning it on you, which is exceptionally gaslighting behavior. You have a right to privacy. You have a right to discuss any part of your relationship with whomever you choose. I had a partner who didn't like it if I spoke about problems because it meant loss of their control and your realization that they are abusive. You have nothing to apologize for. They are at fault, sneaky, and manipulating the situation while acting like they have done nothing wrong. You deserve so much better. I would suggest reflecting on whether there have been any other red flags you may have missed. I feel there may be more than this one. Story 108. Listening in is crossing many personal boundaries and goes against common sense. Talk to your therapist in your car because the house will never feel safe again. I was in a codependent relationship. I tried filling the hole in my ex's heart, but it is impossible. One sign was that she could not accept any criticism while she heaped scorn on me and others. The four horsemen of the end of a relationship are contempt, criticism, defensiveness, and stonewalling. All these, except contempt, are acceptable in moderation as long as there is communication, fairness, and empathy. However, it is a big problem if one partner always gets their way, and you feel terrorized, bribed, or blackmailed as if you were walking on eggshells. Story 109. You did nothing wrong. That is what therapy is for, to get things off your mind that cause you stress and worry. If she can't trust you because she broke your trust, then that is her issue. If it were me, I would say to move on. But seriously, you did nothing wrong. Honestly, it sounds like a red flag to me that she is gaslighting you after eavesdropping. Story 110. To summarize your question, your girlfriend invaded your privacy and was upset by what she heard. How should you proceed? She behaved poorly by invading your privacy and then stormed out, acting like a child when upset. Her impulse control does not seem well developed at this point. My advice is to give her some quiet time to begin bridging the gap, starting with her apology for invading your privacy. You do not owe her an apology for her hurt feelings. She caused those herself. After her apology, you may choose to be open with her about whatever upset her and work together as a couple to improve the relationship. If no apology is forthcoming, consider ending the relationship. Story 111. Ex-therapist, current medical provider here. I'm sorry you're going through this. Your girlfriend honestly sounds incredibly immature to feel betrayed simply because you talked to your therapist about your relationship and life stressors. That is literally the place where you are allowed to talk about anything. It is not your responsibility to apologize. She is clearly in the wrong here. I am not a practicing therapist, though I do have a license as a substance abuse therapist, with or without dual mental health diagnosis. I am a clinical addiction neurobiologist by career, but I have not been a therapist for a couple of years now. I understand both sides of the psychology field well. It would be one thing if she accidentally overheard, but she intentionally listened in on you. That is a massive betrayal of trust and quite honestly disgusting behavior. There is a reason why the United States has strict healthcare privacy laws to protect patients. Story 112. Do not apologize for what you did. Go to her and tell her firmly that what she did was wrong. Listening in on someone's therapy session for 30 minutes and trying to use that against them is very rude and needs to be addressed. How you both proceed after that is up to you. Story 113. You continue to go to therapy. You are doing the right thing. It is her fault for getting mad about overhearing your session. If she wanted to be an adult and have a heart-to-heart conversation about it, then okay. Right now, she is the one acting like a child. Story 114. She feels betrayed? She betrayed you. Why does she think doctor-patient privilege exists? She is the one who owes you an apology. Story 115. End the relationship. She not only violated your most personal space, but she also used that private, vulnerable information to attack you. She is not a good person to have in your life. End the relationship. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.